What's up, guys? Welcome back to my Olympia prep series. If you haven't catch the first episode of the Olympia prep series, you can check it out right here. It's when I was 4 weeks out. I cover my thoughts on Tampa, the Tampa win, and what myself and Andrew Vu are doing in this initial phase before going to Olympia, because we had 6 weeks after Tampa and I was very conditioned. So a lot of people want to wonder, like, what do you do in that little period? Do you have time to add food back in, or do you have to keep pushing hard? And so check the video out. That'll get you all caught up. For today's update, I'm now 3 weeks out from the Olympia, and I'm getting close to the point where we're going to have to start probably pulling back food a little bit. I was not quite there yet. So today I woke up, I was 213.8, which I had been around like 215, and this was like, it was about almost a 2-pound drop. And then when looking at my posing pictures, I didn't have quite the hardness that I normally would in my legs. They actually looked a little flat, which is strange to see, just with the higher carbs. Just a combo of, like, push days and the cardio and everything just kind of depleted me. So what do you do then? So our goal right now is to not deplete down. It's definitely continuing to provide adequate carbohydrates and calories to get the most as we can out of this initial little rebound phase, because we are trying to add tissue right now and fullness, and keep me really full. Because I think even in the first few weeks after like a hard dieting phase, you can add muscle. It is very, very possible. Not much, but it still is possible. And this is definitely in the case with like an enhanced bodybuilder. Like a natural bodybuilder would be to a much lesser extent. However, you can definitely add more fullness in, and the metabolic advantage is a huge thing that you need to think about, is raising food up, getting your body to decrease a lot of the adaptations from the dieting period, which we pretty much have. Like, I feel great all day long. You can tell right now I'm much more energetic. Sleep has actually really improved this week. I go into deep sleep. I wake up once to pee, which is not typical for prep. Usually the last 2 hours of sleep for me get very, very restless, but I'm hitting 7.5 hours of quality sleep every night. So with that being the goal, and waking up how I did, and what I wanted to do was just kind of like a refeed day, just a higher calorie day. And so I'm gonna have a sushi meal, but that's gonna be I'm gonna do that after training. So everything else hasn't really changed since my last update. My diet's still the same, still doing 300 grams of carbohydrates, 250 grams of protein, and 20 grams of fat. And that's just counting the fat from direct fat sources. Everything else is counted, all the macros, but I'm just doing, I do 40 grams of almond butter a day, so that's 20 grams of fat. And I count the proteins and carbs from that almond butter into my macronutrients. And I would advise you, like, if you're making a diet, people ask me all the time, do you count everything in each food? And I would tell you to do so. That way, because we know, like, for one, if you're setting your protein amounts, you could probably lower protein because you're getting protein from all these other sources, even though, like, your rice isn't a complete protein. But if you have like 40 grams of high quality protein from like a chicken source, you should still count that extra 4 grams of protein from your rice, because it's just adding so much additional on top of your quality protein source. Now, if you're like a true vegetarian, vegan, and rice is your only protein option, yeah, you're going to need to work with complementary protein sources and probably consume a lot higher amounts. So I would count all the macros in setting it up. But the other part of that too is, once your diet is set and that's what you eat every single day, the little nuances, or maybe the incidental carbs or fats in meals that you didn't count, well, they're already accounted for because you're eating the same thing every day. But that's how I would set up my diet, and I count the proteins and carbs and everything in all the meals. But for simplicity of telling you numbers, that's how I have it for you. But if you want to check out my full diet for the day, you can see it below. I also added in what I had for this sushi meal, cheat meal, free meal, whatever you would like to call it. Cardio's staying the same, so I still take the dogs out, and I feel good enough to take the dogs out because sometimes they pull me all over the place because they're big. They're both American bullies. Logan he's got to be a little over 120 pounds now, the male, and female is around 70, and she's pretty athletic, so she'll just pull hard just because she's strong. But I'll walk them to the end of the neighborhood, which it's a little over 2 miles, and then in the evening we'll do the exact same walk. And step-wise, my goal is to hit 10,000 steps a day, so which works out pretty close to 5 miles. So sometimes I might be more active, or I go grocery shopping, then I'll cut down my evening walk. So I just want that to be pretty consistent all around. With the higher food amounts, hunger's really good. Like digestion's great. Usually I don't have to add in any type of fiber powder right now. I do use some magnesium citrate just for a magnesium source. It's not enough that I would say would help be aiding in causing a laxative effect. Sometimes in prep I do need to use a laxative like Dulcolax, but not right now. With that food amount, I'm perfectly good, and that's where I'm at with that. So nothing too exciting, but next week is probably going to start pushing things, so we'll make some changes from there. Today I'm going to take you through a back session, and I have 3 back days. So that's an area that for one, back recovers well. You can definitely train with higher frequencies on certain muscle groups and be able to handle more volume over the course of your week versus trying to add in all the volume in one day. So I believe roughly I'm right at 24 work sets total for back, all from various rowing angles. And how my days are set up is I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday for back. So Monday is a lower rep work, close, I'll hit 8 to the high end of 13, 14 reps. Then my midweek Wednesday workout, I move into a higher rep range, so that comes up to 12 at the low end, up to 20 reps on the high end. And then my Friday is more moderate rep range, and that's also my hamstring day. So I'll add in I'll do mid shin, kind of a pseudo rack pull. It's banded with snatch grip, so it hits traps really hard, but also has some good hip hinge in it. And then do some other rowing on that day. So that midweek workout really gives me a break from the neural taxing from my heavier day, which is today, and also just working the higher rep range. You're much safer for soft tissue injuries, and it's easier in your joints and ligaments. So it's a nice way. You still get a good hypertrophy stimulus, but you're also not just pounding heavy weights 3 days a week, because you wouldn't last doing that. So you have to use these various rep ranges like so. Why would you don't just train back because you can train back 3 days a week? I would do this if you truly need to bring up back. If you need something more for overall growth, I think training back twice a week is good advice. But if it's a lagging part, and this is for me, that's someone that's an advanced development level, that I'm trying to really emphasize certain areas and bring my leg volume back. If you're a beginner, say you need to add 20 pounds of stage weight, you shouldn't be emphasizing as much as I do. I think you still can based on weak points, but not as much as was what someone that would be advanced would be doing so. But anyway, for this back session, what I start with is a T-bar row, which I've kept in for the past year as a primary movement. So it's always been my good marker of progress. I like it because being chest supported, I'm very fixed in position, so I really take a lot. Doing this much back workout, you can't have that much like standing rowing, and where you're having to use a lot of spinal erectors. Your lower back would be worn out, especially if you're trying to train legs and stuff too, because I trained legs yesterday, so I try to keep that in mind in my exercise selection. So starting with a T-bar row, hitting a good pretty much overall back, which is a good choice for a first movement. So hit some traps, some teres major, lats. And what I do 3 sets on this heavier day, and I'll decrease load to stay within that 8 to 12 rep range. So my first set I hit around 8 reps, then I dropped weight, hit it around 8 reps again, then the last set dropping weight I hit 13 reps, and that was actually a rep PR for me on that last set. So the T-bar row does a really good job getting you in the shortened state, getting hard contraction, getting good connection with the back. From there I move on to a pull-up, which I'm light enough right now where I can actually do a pull-up. And I was doing rack chins, but the loading in my lap and getting it set up in position by myself is just, it's a little cumbersome, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. So I moved to these pull-ups, and I really like them. It's trying to really drive my elbows down. I'm not coming up, like I don't need to clear the bar, because I do keep my elbows flared just slightly, so it is more of a teres major, but if you kick your elbows in a little bit more, you get more lat involvement. But I'm trying to emulate how I do set up for rack chin. So I'll do just a 25-pound plate for my first set. I'll hit 7 reps, then just went to body weight, hit 9 reps, then I add a band on, and I hit 13 reps. So I just try to keep backing down in weight and working within that same rep range, and really control the eccentric phase. You see a lot of people with pull-ups like swing to get it up, and then it's like a flop back down. And if you're losing the eccentric phase on your back work, you're missing the complete point of a good hypertrophy stimulus. The eccentric phase is a key component to making a lot of tension within the muscle. From there, I moved to something to hit a little bit more focus on upper back, and I still want it very fixed. So we don't have a great chest supported upper back rowing machine. So what I do is I set up in the Smith machine, and I bring in an incline bench so I can lean into it and brace my chest. And I'm trying to keep my elbows flared out at 90 degrees and really focus on rowing up closer to my mid-sternum area. And also the focus is on pulling the scapulas together at the very top and then controlling them out and let them fully retract toward the bottom. This is where you're going to hit that mid-lower trap, rear delt, give you that thickness across the top of your back. And so on these, it's the same type of setup. I hit a set of, I hit 9 on my first set. I stayed with the same weight for one more set. I hit 6. Then I decreased weight, and then I hit 10 reps. All these sets that we're talking about here, they're pretty much at failure. Sometimes I don't complete the rep. Sometimes I stop right before, if I know for a fact like I'm going to be way off. But for back training like that, it hasn't been that neurally fatiguing going to failure. And so I'm taking it all out. Plus I have the food right now to support pushing this effort level really hard into my work sets. Next I move into a rope face pull, and I do move into a higher rep range for the face pulls. For one, going really low rep, I couldn't keep my body weight on the ground. So I select a weight, I hit 20 reps in my first set, and then I stayed with that weight and just did 2 additional sets. So the reps dropped from 14 then down to 10. And then move into some more metabolic work for rear delts and then also for lats. So I do just a standing rear cable fly. I do 1 set and hit, let's see what I hit, around 15 reps. Then I dropped weight and just went to failure. And then moving from there, I go right over to the standing rope pull over. Same thing, hit around 15 reps, drop weight, and just go to failure again. And that's pretty much rounds out my whole back workout. So it's a lot of multiple sets and some compound moves in the lower rep ranges with a little bit of metabolic work at the end. And so for biceps, I just do 4 sets. Biceps is an area I'm really focusing on for growth, so there's not a lot of volume added in. I just stayed on the incline dumbbell bench because I get a great connection with that movement, just keeping the hands supinated. And I just hit a set between 15 to 20 reps, and I just stay with that weight for 3 more sets, so 4 sets total. And the only other thing I added on was at the very end, when I finished my 4th set, I grabbed some 15-pound dumbbells and just went to failure on reverse curls. So if we want to count that as 5 sets total, we can. Then I do calves on my back days, because calves is another movement that they recover fast and they can handle training volume well. So what I did was 3 sets of 20 reps on a donkey calf raise, and not quite 20, it's like 15 to 20, because I'll go all out to failure, so the reps drop with the subsequent sets. Then I jumped on over to the seated calf raise, and same thing, about 15 to 20 reps. I just did 2 sets on that, and that would wrap up my full back day. And so after back day, it's now time for sushi. And the idea behind this is that, I have a baseline of these 300 grams of carbs. So we're just going to take a meal out and add in a sushi, and I had yogurt as well. And this is something that we've done frequently. It digests really well, for one. So if you're going to go have some type of free cheat meal, you definitely want something that's going to digest good. Also, you want something high carbohydrate, low fat, for one, digestion, but also high carbohydrate is really what we're trying to restore glycogen levels with, get a good response from leptin and thyroid output, metabolic function. So having it really high in fat doesn't make sense. We definitely want a higher carbohydrate food. So sushi is a perfect meal for this. So for the day, I can definitely increase my carbohydrate load, probably I would say probably about another 150 grams of carbohydrates over my 300, so about 450 grams of carbs. And I did 2 rolls of sushi, which each roll of sushi is about 40 grams of carbs, 45 grams of carbs. I asked for no avocado, no mayo, no cream cheese. I don't want any direct fat sources on my sushi, so I basically just go with fish and rice. And it sits really, really easy to digest. Also, you have to think about the psychological benefit of being on prep, and I'm going out on a date night with my wife, which doesn't happen often, and just getting something outside of the monotony. It has a huge drop in stress, and there's a benefit alone just to doing that. If you have questions or anything, please leave them below. I can answer them on the next video for you guys. And thanks again. Talk to you soon.